Welcome to the second episode of Straight Up with Genius Felicity from Food and Health Communication. On today's episode, we will be focusing on our planet and our health, or better still, would say our environment and our health. And that is because today happens to be World Health Day. So we have joining us in the studio here an environmentalist in person of Dr. Austin ABCK. Dr. Austin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. The
You're
doctor
welcome
has
to
not
us.
been awarded.
Oh, sorry. Okay, welcome sir, to our studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Also, we have a nutritionist joining us remotely in person of Dr. Omachi Bosedi. Dr. Omachi, good morning, ma. Dr. Omachi, good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, ma. Welcome to our studio.
I was muted initially.
Okay, sorry about that. Good morning, ma, and welcome to Food and Health Communication.
Good morning. Also, my doctorate is in progress.
Okay. I hope you heard what we discussed earlier. We said we are talking about our planet, our health, or rather still our environment and our health. And
Yeah,
that is
sure.
because today happens to be World Health Day. So we are happy to have you here today, ma.
Same here, ma.
Okay. So, Dr. Austin ABCK, although even if you said the doctor has not been awarded still, we'll still
Yes.
call you doctor. Yes, yeah, doctor.
I'll prefer Mr. Please.
Okay, Mr. ABCK,
Thank
thank
you.
you, sir. Today is World Health Day, and like I mentioned before, we'll be focusing on our planet and our health. In other words, our environment, our health. So, but before we dive further into everything, let's understand what our planet and our health means. Or when we say our planet, our health, what do we really mean? Our environment, our health, what do we really mean?
Our planet is, I'll say, our world, our environment.
Okay.
I'm living in Abuja.
Yes.
Somebody is living in Lagos. Somebody is living in Meduguri. The environment where the person lives or his own part of the earth may not be, is not the same as my own because the climate has effect on health.
Yes.
The climate, if you know, people who live like in the south, people who live in Rivers, Imo, Abia, those places are known as they are rainforest areas. The heat is not as much as you have in Abuja.
Yes.
And when you go up north to say Meduguri, the heat is harsher.
Yes.
So the environment of where that person lives has an impact on his health, be
Okay.
it through the climate. The type of insects that you find around him will be different from what you find in another environment, in the same world, in the same earth.
Yes.
So wherever one finds wherever one finds himself, what are those issues in the environment that concern his health? Those are the things that would have an impact on his
Health.
health.
Yes.
I don't know if I've been able to
So
explain.
yeah, yes. So now you said the type of environment the person lives in affects their
Yeah.
health. So why is the health of our planet even important?
The well-being of everybody is determined by the climate we live in. The God who created the world put everything in order. But for us to be able to survive, industries came up, and the way of life that we have, for which is also supporting our well-being, it has to be in equilibrium with what exists around us. If not, you'll find out that some of those things that were friendly will become unfriendly because of their reaction
Okay.
to what we are doing in the environment. Today, for example, all over the world, climate change, before people were denying it. But today, things that are happening, even in our own local environment, there are patterns of the weather is changing.
Yeah.
For example, in Abuja, you will hear that when we came to Abuja earlier on, I was in Abuja in 1999,
Okay.
in those as recent as 10 years ago, the rain pattern in Abuja was different from
From
what we
now.
have today.
Yes.
And since it is changing, some of those insects that will have longer time to stabilize because of the harsh weather are finding it very comfortable to be alive and multiply and then cause disease on people because of the change in the climate. Even the farmers, some of them are complaining. The crops they plant are not doing as well as it should be
Yeah.
because of the change in the climate. And farmers, if that happens, we may have shortage of some of the things we eat.
Yes.
And some of those things too, it's also bringing some good news to some other people. Because if you look at the temperate zones, the ice is melting. Some of the land that for over a million years nobody had access to, the
Yeah.
people are having access to it. But that also is impacting negatively in other places. So by and large, climate change is affecting everybody negatively.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, sir. This question is to you, Dr. Omachi. So, what role does the planet or does the environment plays on our health?
Thank you very much. Just like Mr. Austin has earlier said, the planet entails the natural environment we humans find ourselves. And this entails the oceans, the important ecosystems like the forest, the wetlands, and so forth. These all work together to maintain a stable climate for humans to live in. And
Okay.
so, as a planet, there are some, I would like to focus on the positive contribution or roles of the planet on human earth. One is that it provides clean water and also helps to recycle nutrients,
Okay.
especially we are aware of photosynthesis. It's a
Yes.
process whereby the plants manufacture their food and release oxygen for what human to breathe in. And as a response to our own respiration, we give out CO2 that also assists the plants to produce their food. So this is one of the major importance of the planet on Earth. Secondly, it also regulates Earth's water system, like provision of fresh water for drinking and sanitation, which all contribute to human health at the overall. It also produces medicinal compounds that helps us to manage and prevent some ailments and diseases around us. Then it provides food, shelter, and fuel. It also provides energy through the burning of fossil fuels. Then, for instance, we see that the consumption of edible portion of plants like fruit and vegetable and wholesome grains helps in prevention of several diet-related non-communicable diseases among humans. So, in the on the long run, an intact ecosystem helps to regulate disease transmission, especially the zoonotic diseases. These are the diseases we get from animal like Lassa fever. So these are some of the major contributions of healthy planets to human health. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma. Chemical pollution, air pollution, climate change, disease causing microbes, and lack of access to healthcare, poor infrastructure, and poor water quality, just like you mentioned, are some of the major issues of environmental health now. Among all these issues that I mentioned earlier, what is the most critical environmental issue that affects our health globally?
I- yeah, the most critical environmental issue that affects our health globally is pollution.
Okay.
Record at it from the Global Environmental Outlook convention that they had in 2019, which is the sixth one. It is recorded that pollution accounts for 92% of death, especially in low and medium income countries. And it occurs more among the marginalized and the minority of the community. This death is about 3 times higher than the death caused by malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV/AIDS globally. And it's about 15 times more than the death caused by war and violence. So we can see how serious pollution is to human health. And apart from this, it also causes various diseases and disabilities among children, irrespective of the age, even during pregnancy and infancy. So we see that pollution in every form is a major cause of death globally. Thank you.
Thank you, ma. So now you've mentioned that pollution is the major cause. Now, what is the effect of environmental pollution to human health?
Yeah, there are several effects of environmental pollution on human health. We have one, which is loss of biodiversity. That is,
Okay.
natural habitats of animals, species are going extinct. And this impacts greatly on food security status of any nation. It also aids in the transmission of zoonotic diseases, and that's why we have the incidence of Lassa fever in Nigeria. Another implication of unhealthy planet is ocean acidification and desertification, or loss of water body, which also impacts negatively on water security of any nation, and also increases the risk of waterborne diseases generally. Another effect is also water and air pollution. Of course, we have kept on
Okay.
mentioning pollution. It's such as
Yes.
production of antibiotics, some nanochemicals, extraction and mining sites have contributed greatly to high level of lead poisoning
Let.
by
Yes.
increasing the mean blood lead value in human blood. It also increases the zinc concentration, which inhibits iron absorption in food. So these are major causes, adverse effects. We also have land and forest deforestation, which has led to several, like bush burning and the rest, causing
Yes.
a lot of food poisoning, and also use of chemicals like pesticides, insecticides, which are not biodegradable. These have residual or bioaccumulation in foods, and when human consume them, it can lead to what we call kidney stone. Kidney stone is not stone, it's accumulation of particles that cannot be dissolved. And so they come together and stuck together, and in the process of the body trying to eliminate them, they get hooked and result in affecting urine process in the body. Then we also have the atmospheric effects like bush burning, like all these are vehicular exhaust. Then the use of generator to generate electricity gives rise to greenhouse gas emission by increasing the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere. And this impact is that it inhibits or affects oxygen absorption of the blood, and so can lead to several health implications. Thank you.
Thank you, ma. So I can hear from the background, Mr. Austin. Sorry for calling you Doctor. Mr. Austin was nodding his head and he was agreeing with you on what you said about smoke, bush burning, and also smoke from the exhaust. Now I'll come back to you later, ma. But Mr. Austin, thank you. You were agreeing with her on bush burning and smoke coming out from exhaust. Now, can you tell me the effect of those smoke on our environment? Like, what's the effect of the smoke on our environment? How does it even affect the environment?
You see, when smoke comes out, depending
Okay.
on what it constitutes, it mixes with other gases in the environment, and people breathe.
Yes.
By breathing it, there was a study I was looking at some time ago, was showing high level of lead in people who live close to the highways.
Wow.
How did it come about? It must have a direct link to where they live and the vehicular traffic around that area. For example, is I am saying that that could be the cause of high level of lead in people who live around the road or close to the road
Close to the
with
road.
high vehicular traffic. So that is one of the answers to what you are asking for. Again, I'm looking at smoke on
Yes.
its own. What cause smoke, depending on the origin of the smoke and what it contains. Whatever it contains, once it's been passed in the air, we don't filter our air before we breathe them.
Yes.
And that means everybody is breathing it. You see, the River State government, for example, was complaining about the smog. It didn't used to be there before. But due to human activities, most of them unregulated, the air is now getting to the level where it's becoming a crisis.
Big problem.
And when it's like that, it's human beings that are around those areas that would be affected.
So now, will I be right to say, um, healthy environment should be implemented as human rights in the constitution?
Is if you say that, I will agree with you. But the problem we have locally, discussing with the authorities, that health is a very big concept. Most people believe that health is when you are sick and you are in hospital, somebody trips
Take
injection.
injection and
That's
that's all.
that's all. But health is much more than that, because the driver who is driving safely and takes you from Nyanya to town or to Lokoja and comes back is supporting health.
Yes.
The farmer who is farming and making sure that his produce is placed and people buy and eat healthy, they are supporting health.
Yes.
So the architects and the town planners and all the engineers who build, today we are in somewhere in Asokoro. But when I was coming, I observed it. People will build their houses to where the land is supposed to have, their own land is ended.
Yes.
Then the part between the wall and the road, you have a free land.
Yes.
That is supposed to be pedestrian right of way. And the pedestrian right of way means that people can walk along,
Yes.
but the man will build here, which he claims is his own, he will put a 6 feet wall, fine. The other one that he didn't claim, he will plant fruits or vegetable or flowers. He will put barbed wire
Yes.
and so many other things, constricting people who are living around there, who would come back in the evening and want to jog around his street.
Yes.
You'll be contending with motorcycle, drunk
Yes.
drivers, and the other one, keke napep, on the road.
Caterpillars, all of them.
And by the time you move for 20, 30 meters, you'll be thanking God if none of them hits the person and he ends up in hospital. So somebody living in such an environment, how can he be healthy? Basic exercise, not when you buy machines in your house and jog. You can walk with your family along the street without contending with motorcycle and the vehicle and every other person, because the pedestrian right of way is protected.
Yes.
The man will also put a big signboard claiming that walkthrough is prohibited this side in a land that is not his own. So how would the people who live in that environment be healthy? But if government looks at it, the land is not his own, it's
That's all.
public land.
Public.
And it is created for people who live around.
To
You
pass.
want to walk to see a colleague or a friend in the next street,
Yes.
you don't need to drive. But if you cannot drive, you want to walk, and you know it's not safe for you to walk from here to the next street, you will drive. And then this helps us to continue to be fat. Nobody is burning energy, because if you are not in this vehicle, you are in the other one, you can't walk the street. So the person is unhealthy.
So are you saying now that because we are not working, that's why we are fat?
No, it will be it could contribute to it. But what I'm saying is,
Okay.
we are looking at health today
Yes.
in a holistic nature.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say is that the architect, the town planner, all of them, the engineer who is building and what they are building should be able to contribute to health. If you had provided, in some societies, they have bicycle right of way. You could ride from here to Kubwa
Yes.
and you'll be safe.
Yes.
You won't see, no vehicle would come near you and you won't go near them. If you have such things provided within our own society, people will be able to exercise themselves. Exercise is not only when you go to the stadium and run.
Yes.
You can do that, buy a bicycle and cycle to your office every day and come back. That person would be able to burn enough
Calorie.
calories and and exercise enough to remain healthy.
So now, what is the main concern? What is the main purpose of environmental health?
The main purpose of environmental health is to make us be aware that our environment, all the components, is it the water, the air, the house you live in, the food you eat, everything within that environment should be healthy. And if it is healthy, you who is living in that environment
Environment will be
will
healthy.
be healthy, because they are all supporting your health.
Yes.
But where any or most of them have been impacted negatively, there is no way the person will be healthy.
All right. Thank you, sir. So coming back to you, Mrs. Omachi, Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
Okay, ma'am. Looking at our environment here in Nigeria, most people eat from dirty environments, and that is mostly because those people are from the average background. So now, what do you have to say about that? And then, what is your advice to those people eating from those environments? And mind you, those people, when you talk to them, when you come to them to advise them, they'll say, dirty no they keep on man, disease no they keep on man, na only rich man. Do you think that's even the right thing to say as humans?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We see that our disposition to health and environment in Nigeria is really, really very bad and poor. In fact, to affirm this, the 2020 conceptual framework for determinants of maternal and child nutrition by the UNICEF affirmed the contribution of environment and hygienic practices to the overall well-being of human. Though the focus was were on women and children because they are the most vulnerable, you know. But however, it contributes to everybody's health, just like Mr. Austin has emphasized. And we see that apart from unhealthy environment, there are several unhealthy behaviors that Nigerians practice and then accumulate, and we don't know that they have implication on our health. I'm going to be mentioning some of these practices, and maybe many of us have defaulted in one way or the other,
Yeah.
because of poor, I will call it food literacy. And what is food literacy? It's not just knowledge about food, it's the knowledge about how to handle food during processing, preservation, and even cooking to ensure that we eat healthy. Because aside, cooking or purchasing food, the way we handle this food also impact on whether we are going to get the most of the nutrients in this food. Some of these activities that we're engaging in as Nigerians, aside our dirty environment, are one, use of chemicals to ripen fruits. I'm not sure many of us are aware that carbide has a negative impact on health. And most of these fruits we buy on the highways, even the bananas, the plantains, the oranges, are first ripened with chemicals. And so these chemicals are non-biodegradable. So once you consume them, no wonder they are carcinogenic. They predispose humans to cancer. And no wonder the life expectancy in Nigeria is 55 years. So, and even Ghana and then Niger is about 65 years. But Nigeria, we are just about 55. We are one of the countries that have the least life expectancy because of premature death due to what we consume ignorantly. And sometimes we also discover that many of our livestock producers, they sell off their goods, their animals, especially poultry, even during vaccination and medication, not keeping into cognizance the shelf life of these vaccines to wear off before humans, consume this meat. And so some of these chemicals, we call them heavy chemicals, are retained in the flesh of animals and of plants. And when humans consume them, just like I've mentioned earlier, aside cancer, they can also affect our kidneys and livers. Another important or unhealthy habit we engage in Nigeria is roasting of food on live coals, like our boli, roasted plantain, our corns, roasted corns, our smoked fish. Many of these have carbon residue in them. And I've told you before, carbon inhibit a lot of nutrients. We call them anti-nutrients, anti-nutritional factors. So even if we eat the bole, the nutrients you're supposed to get from the bole had already been hindered or inhibited by the carbon on the bole. And so you just end up like eating, but not eating healthy.
Healthy.
Another thing that people do that we are not aware of is roasting of cows. If you go to our butcheries and abattoirs, you see that cows are usually roasted with unused tires because it's cost effective. They don't want to buy kerosene. And so when they do that, you can imagine you purchasing meat from the market and all you do is to purchase chemical for yourselves. So we see a lot of these bad habits that people engage in and we are not aware of. These all contribute negatively to the poor health status and nutrition insecurity in Nigeria. These are just to mention few. And these have been highlighted by the Rockefeller Foundation Lancet series of 2019. These are fundamental practices in low and medium income countries like Nigeria that is really, really impacting negatively on the health of the populace. Another important one is this I pass my neighbor generator. You know, it's part of the fossil fuel burning, and it's part of the greenhouse gas emission that increases the carbon content in the environment. You can imagine going to a shopping mall where every shop outlet has a pass my neighbor generator, or you
Yes.
live in semi-urban centers where every household uses this generator. We know that several people have died out of suffocation because the
Yes.
generator were left on, the windows were shut, and there was no ventilation in the households. So these are some of the practices that have affected tremendously the health of Nigerians.
All right. Thank you, Ma. So we'll go on a short break now. We'll be back very soon. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Welcome back. It's still Straight Talk with Eunice Felicity, and we are in Food and Health Communication. All right. We want to look at the health perspective of that train issue, that train crisis that happened, the terrorists in Kaduna and Abuja Highway. Now, sir, looking at that area, we understood that so many people ran away due to the terrorism and the shooting and everything, the kidnapping. So a lot of people ran away, a lot of people were injured, a lot of people were emotionally bastardized. Let me use that word. Now, that's that incident that happened. We want to look at the health perspective now. How does it affect the health of everybody globally?
Or the health of those who were
And
affected,
yes, even those that were
particularly
affected.
those who were affected. It was an unfortunate incident, and we do sympathize with them. But again, it is part of what we're trying to say. Are they most of our men and women, are we really physically healthy to take off and do 100 meters and still be standing?
Hmm.
I don't know. I wouldn't say yes, because that's not my area. But what I see is that due to the way our urban development is taking, if you drive around, you'll find out that most of the estates now, there are no open spaces. But if you go to development control and see their layout maps, you see the reserve areas which are open spaces for people to play, children to play,
Play,
and things like that,
jog.
to jog. But in most of our big estates, Barempa, there's no empty space. The space for hospital is not there. The space for market is not there. The space for schools, the space for schools are not there. But they were provided.
In the plan.
The powers that be would always allocate the ones that have been numbered. There are 2,000 plots. Then those who are in charge will take off all these, carve them out, and before you know it, all of them disappeared, making us sedentary people. So when you have an emergency like they had on that train, I'm sure most of those who were able to run will be the very young ones,
Yes.
because the older ones may not be physically fit to exert so much energy in such an emergency.
Yeah.
So it's also trying to tell us health, like I said earlier, is not when you have me, a doctor, and hospital. It is more than that. In every other thing you are doing, the planners, the executors, everybody responsible is supposed to know that and carry it along, that All these things are contributing to the health of our people, and be able to provide the infrastructure that would support health in a very broad sense of the word.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mrs. Omachi, what would you have to say about the incident?
Yeah, just like Mr. Austin has emphasized, we see that health, just like I said earlier, is a total well-being of humans. It's not just mere absence of disease. And so health entails being having security, you know. And we see that many of these challenges that kept on happening are residual impacts of insecurity in the aspect of food. You know, a lot of people don't have what to eat. And so by means of surviving, they engage in several atrocities. You can imagine the caliber of people that were kidnapped in that train were high-ranking profiles. Of course, it sends a signal that the kidnappers had aim. It was purposeful. You understand? And so what they are trying for me, agitating is remember us the masses. You are comfortable, your children are comfortable. We are here uncomfortable. By the time we kidnap you and you feel what we feel, maybe you are going to remember us. So I feel the government should put into place um, an all-round encompassing program, especially for the masses. When you get people engaged positively, when there is jobs, when there are jobs rather, and people can know livelihood, they can conveniently afford food and basic essentials of life. The rate of crime will be very poor, and that's what we see in countries like Poland. I can imagine that the rate of crime is as low as 0% because the government and individuals, humanitarian organizations are able to provide basic necessities of life for their citizens. And so when the basics of essentials of life are provided for everyone, the crime rate will definitely reduce. Because if you look at the ransom they are asking for is money, that many of them are not even after killing lives. What's the money? So what do they intend to do with the money? Is to make themselves comfortable. The only thing that baffles me is that many times they go on to kidnap the poor masses. The man, you can imagine kidnapping a mechanic and asking for 10 million. Where is he gonna get it? And so these are some of the things. And then if our youth can be empowered, a lot of things that this youth can do. You can imagine producing several graduates and they are jobless. There is no how you will not have cyber crimes because you have empowered them mentally. And so they've got to explore what you have taught them within the walls of the classroom on the poor masses. And that's why you see a lot of these challenges. So if the government can empower these youth and also penalize, yes, when you catch people that are fraudsters or with money laundering and they are grossly penalized, it's going to serve as deterrent for people. But when the people that are caught are released and they move around freely on the highway, it doesn't deter other from people from committing such crime because they know that at the long run, once you can pay the ransom or the bills, you'll be free. So this is one of the things I have to say. And I also would like to also emphasize that concerning pollution, our food and agriculture organizations and also these road safety officials should do their work. Many of our vehicles are not road worthy, and yet to see them on the high roads, on the highways, exhibiting exhaust that people are inhaling and is hampering their health. So these are some of the facilities that should be put in place so that we all can live healthy and well, because a healthy planet will definitely give rise to a healthy people. Thank you.
Population.
Thank you, ma. So, on a final note, sir, I would want you to summarize and advise Nigerians on environmental health.
Nigerians on environmental health. Environmental health is the health that concerns within the environment you live. The food you eat, is it healthy? If it's not enough to go to any bukateria to eat. It is good to eat healthy. Then you go to buy fruits. Are you buying the ones that have been forced to ripe using chemicals like carbide, which is widespread? If you can notice telltale signs that this fruit didn't ripen naturally, don't buy.
Okay.
Then if you live in an environment that mosquitoes, you have to be contending with mosquitoes, contending with rodents and all that. Some of these things you can be able to design, not design now, put small, small little things that will make sure, like the windows, you screen them,
Yeah.
you put wire mesh, and if the roof is open somewhere where the mosquitoes or where the rodents will come from the ceiling and come into your house, if you look for something and block it, before you know it, rats will not come into your house, they will not play with your food, and the possibility of you eating such a food which the rats have played
Eating.
on and then getting in contact with Lassa
Lassa
fever
fever.
is reduced. Then what if you are not sure of the water you drink? You boil it. Somebody will now say, kerosene is expensive, gas is expensive. How can he afford to do that? I know it is difficult, but prevention is better and cheaper than
And
cure.
cure.
So
Yes.
if you do that and you drink water that is wholesome, you will find out that you won't be going to hospital. And if you are not sick, you are not going to hospital. The hospital bills can be used for something else.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Omachi, for sharing what you have with us. Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
too.
Austin, for
Thank you.
sharing what you have with us. And I believe many Nigerians have learned a lot from today's episode. And I'm hoping and praying that when next we'll call you, you'd like to join us again, sir. Food and
Yes,
Health Communication is grateful to have you. Thank
thank
you
you.
very much. This is the close of our episode for today. I still remain your host, Eunice Felicity. Please try to stream on our YouTube page, like our social media page on Food and Health Com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Stay
Thank
safe.
you.